Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are going to completely flip the script on something you probably see every single day. We're looking at the dynamic between humans and domestic cats. Now, if you crack open a standard biology textbook, it's going to tell you that roughly 10,000 years ago, humans domesticated cats to protect our agricultural grain stores. Basically, we were the agents in charge, and they were the subjects. But as we comb through the research today, we're setting up a pretty wild core mystery. Do those textbooks have the human-cat power dynamic completely backwards? Okay, let's dive right into this. You know this universally relatable experience, right? The cat is sitting on your chest, you cannot move. Now, it's not because it's heavy. It weighs, maybe 4 kilograms? You could remove it easily, but you're not going to. Because it's purring, and moving it would just feel vaguely cruel. Somehow, this tiny predator has created a situation where a creature literally many times its size has voluntarily immobilized itself on its behalf. This exact scenario happens in hundreds of millions of households every single day. And when you factor in the billions of dollars spent annually on premium cat food, toys, and healthcare, well, you really have to start questioning who is actually in charge of this arrangement. To get to the bottom of this, we really need to look at what the word domestication actually means in a strict biological sense. By definition, it's the biological process where a wild species is modified through human-controlled selective breeding. The end goal is to produce a population that is genetically distinct from its wild ancestor, to make them more useful or manageable for us. The traditional narrative claims early humans actively made this practical, conscious decision to domesticate cats for rodent management. But does the biology actually back that up? Well, let's look at dogs for a second. Dogs are undeniably domesticated. They've been so thoroughly reshaped by human selection over tens of thousands of years that they differ from wolves in literally hundreds of measurable ways, behaviorally, physiologically, cognitively. But compare that to cats. The genetic distance between a modern domestic cat and its wild ancestor, Felis libica, is remarkably small. Aside from some slightly reduced fear responses and a few coat color variations, their fundamental biology is essentially unchanged. Humans didn't actively reshape cats. Cats just moved into our resource-rich environments because it suited them perfectly. Honestly, if you were to accurately name this biological event, you wouldn't call it domestication, you'd call it colonization. So let's do a biological audit. Who is actually getting the better deal here? What's absolutely fascinating here is how incredibly lopsided this ledger is when you break it down. On the cat side of the historical contribution, we have rodent control. And sure, that was valuable to early farmers, but it required zero training from humans. Cats were killing small mammals long before we arrived, and they just kept doing it because our farms had a massive concentration of prey. It was entirely self-interested behavior. Now look at the human side of the contribution. We provide a warm, safe, continuously resource-rich environment. We offer daily food, shelter from extreme weather, and wildly expensive veterinary care that extends their natural lifespan by years. Humans are providing massive, ongoing financial and labor investments for an animal that is, at the end of the day, simply executing its natural behavior. Which brings us to the tools of manipulation, or how to successfully hijack human biology. So the logical next question is, how exactly did a tiny 4-kilogram predator manage to negotiate this incredible one-sided arrangement without any conscious strategic planning? Well, over thousands of years of cohabitation, cats developed, or brilliantly retained, functional behaviors that perfectly manipulate human responses. We're going to break down an extraordinary arsenal of 3 specific tools: the meow, the slow blink, and the purr. These are not just cute little quirks, guys. They're a highly evolved communication system tuned directly to human biology. Let's start with the meow. And this fact is always startling. Adult wild cats do not meow at each other. Between adult cats in the wild, this sound is essentially absent. The meow is almost exclusively a human-targeted vocalization. Research actually shows that domestic cat meows, especially that insistent solicitation purr they use when they want their breakfast, contain acoustic frequencies that sit right in the exact range of human infant distress vocalizations. They retain this specific juvenile cry because human auditory systems are biologically hardwired to respond to those exact frequencies with immediate attention and concern. They are literally hacking our parental response systems. Next up is the slow blink. Fascinating research by Karen McComb and her colleagues at the University of Sussex reveals that cats use this deliberate half-closing of the eyes as a social bonding signal toward humans. When a cat slow blinks at you, it acts as an affiliative signal, a marker of trust, and it instantly triggers our human-to-human affiliative neural systems. From our human perspective, it creates this profound, warm feeling of genuine social connection. But from the cat's perspective, it's just a functional behavior that reliably produces positive human responses, perfectly securing their highly beneficial living arrangement. And that brings us to their most powerful tool, the purr. Look at how the physical vibrations of a cat's purr fall perfectly into this massive concentration of energy right between 25 and 50 hertz. This is absolutely not an arbitrary range. In human medicine, therapeutic vibrations in this exact 25 to 50 hertz frequency range are documented to promote bone density, reduce pain, reduce swelling, and accelerate the healing of soft tissue injuries. Because it's continuous and rhythmic, it actively calms the human nervous system. When a cat sits on your chest and purrs, it is essentially conducting a biological massage on your nervous system through direct physical contact.
Let's move on to the physiological perks, the hidden side of the ledger.
So yeah, they have us totally wrapped around their little paws, but it turns out this biological massage actually balances the books a bit more than we might think. The physiological exchange happening here is incredible. Humans who interact with cats experience measurable reductions in blood pressure, lowered heart rates, and decreased cortisol, which is our primary stress hormone. There's even medical research associating cat ownership with reduced cardiovascular disease risk and significantly improved survival outcomes after cardiac events. And this isn't just people saying, I feel happier. These are documented, measurable physiological outcomes. The physical contact, the purring, and the low-demand social interaction prove that cats aren't just passive freeloaders. They're actually active contributors to our health. Which leads us to hijacking human instincts and how they infiltrated the parental care system. Even acknowledging those health benefits, we still have to ask the big question. Why do rational, economically calculating humans happily spend hundreds of billions of dollars every year on premium food, heated beds, and elaborate enrichment toys for these animals? What drives this massive redirection of our resources? Well, evolutionary biology gives us the answer. They infiltrated our parental care system. Think about it. Large eyes, a rounded skull, presenting a juvenile face, those infant frequency vocalizations we talked about, dependent behavior soliciting warmth and food. Over thousands of years, domestic cats successfully converged on a suite of physical and behavioral characteristics that exactly match the stimuli human brains are hardwired to nurture. They present the stimuli, and our caregiving instincts just activate automatically. It's a brilliantly successful infiltration. Let's revisit the attachment asymmetry between dogs and cats. To really illuminate the unique power dynamic of cat ownership, we can look at some incredible attachment research out of Oregon State University. The crucial takeaway here is the total asymmetry of control. Dogs, as we know, are intensely prosocial. They experience mutual distress when separated from us, and they typically accommodate the human schedule. Cats, on the other hand, while they absolutely do form secure attachments, operate fundamentally differently. It's heavily resource-based. They become attached to a familiar provider, but most importantly, it is entirely on the cat's terms. A cat dictates the terms, the duration, and the schedule of the social interaction. They approach when they want, leave when they're done, and the human? Well, the human just accommodates. And that dynamic leads directly into their cultural colonization, from ancient mythology straight to the modern web. This asymmetry of power hasn't just shaped the dynamic in our living rooms, it has shaped our entire human history. Humans in virtually every major civilization have obsessively venerated cats. We can trace it all the way back to ancient Egypt with the goddess Bastet, then move over to Norse mythology where the goddess Freya's chariot was literally pulled by giant cats. We see it in Islamic tradition with a deep respect for cats tracing back to the Prophet Muhammad's affection for his cat, Mueza. And this unbroken global chain of adoration leads straight into the modern era with the absolute dominance of cats in early internet culture. I really want to camp out on this internet phenomenon for just a second because it's so telling. When humans were given the blank canvas of global internet communication, literally unlimited options, free choice to create or view any content in the world, what did we do? Our psychology compelled us to overwhelmingly choose to look at and share pictures and videos of cats. In economics, this is called a revealed preference. It proves, without a doubt, that there is something deeply evolutionarily embedded in human psychology that finds cats uniquely and overwhelmingly compelling. So, it's time for the final verdict. We need to redefine domestication. Bringing all of this incredible evidence together, we have to answer the provocative question we set up at the beginning. Who domesticated whom? Did cats selectively breed humans in a strict biological sense? No, of course not. But did cats functionally modify human behavior to systematically benefit themselves? Absolutely yes. Every great domestication produces humans who are organized around providing resources to the domesticated animal. And the evidence is just overwhelmingly clear. Humans who live with cats have entirely organized their lives around providing resources to those cats at a significant personal cost. They are, quite simply, the ultimate functional manipulators. Which brings us right back to where we started today. The cat is sitting on your chest. You cannot move. You could easily move it, but you're not going to. So I want to leave you with this lingering thought that might just force you to rethink every interaction you've ever had with your own pet. Who is really running the arrangement? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.